Welcome to the Legislative Breakfast, the April 22nd, Still Snow on the Ground edition. I'd like to thank all of you for coming here today. I'd also like to thank the East Side for the excellent food and the members of the media, and as always, all the senators and representatives who are here. Today's breakfast is sponsored by the Orleans County Board of Realtors for this excellent food. They do this every year, and they're integral to our community, so thank you very much. It's appreciated. And today we also have a very special thing. We're going to begin the breakfast with a very special announcement from Senator Starr. So he said it'd only take 5 minutes, so I'm going to hold him to it. Okay? Thanks.
Well, I have a hard time saying things in 5 minutes, but this shouldn't take long. As you can see by my hair and wrinkles that I'm getting older, and my wife and I have come to the conclusion that maybe it's time that I retire. And so it all started here with some of you folks. Ernie Choquette, still one of the pioneers, I guess, of the early years. But as you look at a ruler or a yardstick, and if you're up toward 82, you're getting pretty near the end, and there's things that we would like to do, and places we'd like to go where it's warmer in the winter. And so we're both fairly healthy, and so we felt that it was time. I've represented you folks for 46 years in the legislature, and it's always gone quite well, I would say. Accomplished a lot of things, screwed up a few things. You got to take the bad with the good, and you certainly don't win them all, but I think for the most part we've won our share. And so I just felt that it was near the 1st of May, and people have to, there's others that I'm sure that will throw their hat in and want to run, and I wanted to give them ample time to think about it, make plans, because we need strong representation in Montpelier. We got a good crew that that we have down there now. I've worked well with them. Of course, I can work with most anybody as long as they're breathing and have a smile once in a while. But you go back to way back, and Kerm Smith was down there, and Mr. Spates from Newport here, and there's always been good folks representing us, and hopefully we'll have somebody strong in the future that can take my place and do well for all of us left up here in the kingdom. So with that, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and he'll be up for autographs and pictures after the meeting. So, thank you again, Senator Starr. It's appreciated. We'll begin the breakfast with Senator Russ Ingalls. He serves the Essex-Newport District, the towns of Derby, Holland, Morgan, Linden, and Essex County. He's on the Senate Committee on Institutions. He's the chair of that committee, and he's also on the Senate Committee of Transportation. So we'll start with Senator Ingalls. Thank you.
So obviously I want to acknowledge Senator Starr. We didn't have enough time, but we had a good time. Yep. And, it's just a dying breed. People like Senator Starr, Senator Mazza, Jane Kitchell, and we have a very few up-and-comers who know how to cross party lines and know what to do as far as to represent their people, their kingdom, and it's a sad day. It's a sad day. Enjoyed working with you again. I wish we would have had 20 more years to get done what we could do. We did a lot. And I appreciate your service very, very much, and I hope that you have many, many more years for you folks to maybe start another family again and start all over. So, thank you for what you've done. With that, I just want to put something out there that Senator Starr and I have just working on right now. Something that said that it could not be done, would not be done. We were told we were wasting our time to do that. And so that is the 3-acre rule for fairs that are going on, specifically the ones right now that drain into the Champlain Basin. There's 4 of them. There's Addison, there's Rutland, there's Champlain, and there's Barton. And what this does is it charges these groups for their impervious surface. As realtors, we know what impervious surface is. We're very, very familiar with that. But when you're going with Orleans or the Barton, Orleans County Fair, they're looking at better than $400,000. You've got Rutland that's looking at pretty close to $1 million. You got Addison, probably the same, and you've got Champlain Valley that are pretty close to $2 million. And that's just right off the top. That's just monies just to be charged a fee for just the impervious surface that they have. Well, Senator Starr and I were able to get their studies done for free. They can go and they can put a plan out there. They cost upwards of $49,000, and that was something that we had started earlier. But also the implementation of the plan, which was the big rub. That's you take Orleans County Fair and $400,000. They don't have that. They struggle to open their doors. So we were able to get A&R to give us $2 million, and yet the funding formula is not yet been determined. But we're seeing it something like maybe 90-10 or 80-20, where the state will pick up 90-10. So the state will pick up 90% of it, and they'll pick up 10% of it. So Senator Starr, good way to go out, helping your community as always, and we were able to put that together, 3 of us in the Senate, and hopefully it still goes well. We went down to Montpelier this year to do 3 things. We, amongst other things, as far as to make sure government runs, we went down there to help Vermont stay affordable. We went down there to help Vermont stay safe, and we went down there to help with more housing. And we've struggled with all 3 of those, to be fair with you. We're going to be looking at a 15% tax increase as far as on your property taxes. That's just the way it's going to be. That's in there. So that's over $200 million more in education. We're going to be about $27,000 per student before we're all said and done as far as as far as what we're doing. I mean, we're getting upwards of UVM money now, what you can send somebody to UVM for. And we need to look at a better plan. We need to look at just how we're going to fund education. We're in the top 10 of the world right now, probably in the top 5. And our results are in the middle of the pack and falling. So we've got to take a real hard look at what we do with that. I'm encouraged with the governor's pick for Secretary of Education. She has a wide range of abilities. She just doesn't look at one thing. So I know there's quite a campaign to discredit some of what she does, but I would encourage any of you, before you do that, to sit in on a conversation with her and see what she's all about. And I think she's very, very capable. But the status quo of what we have with our education can't continue. We need to do a better job. We need to get better results, and we all need to get in the same room. We need to close the door, and we need to keep the noise out, and we need to really just worry about putting our kids first. And that's what it's all about. Just put kids first before anything else. Just make sure that whatever we do, the kids are first, and then everything else will fall in line after that. Affordability again. We're Senate appropriations right now, which I will say has fixed a tremendous amount of stuff that's come over from the House. But as of right now, if we were to pass what the House sent over, we would have $500 million more monies asked than what we have monies for. 500 million more asked than what we have. So we know that isn't going to happen. Senate Appropriations again, Bobby's committee has done the best job that they could. I think they've balanced it out as best that they can. And but again, when you go down there for 3 things and you don't accomplish that, it's a hard ask. Housing, yet again, we have 3 people in that building that are keeping back housing, because every time we talk about meaningful housing, Act 250 comes into play. And it just gets tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher. I do feel like, there's a lot of good people in there trying to make good work on that. I know Keisha Ram, the chair of that committee, has done a great job. I know there's been some broad coalitions. Representative Sims has been involved with that, but yet it gets to that committee that sees Act 250, and it just gets hammered. And we've just got to do something. I mean, we spent millions and millions and millions of dollars last year. The shining moment was to put housing in the downtown centers. The only place that they really had room for those were in the floodplains, so they were going to rezone the floodplains, and look what we did. Look what happened this year. I mean, we don't put housing in floodplains anymore. The reason being is we found out this year. So again, there's 3 people in there, the chair of the Senate committee, the House committee, and I don't know who the third person is, but there's got to be a third person, because that's pretty powerful to stop all what really is a lifeline of what realtors do, is to sell and develop more housing. There are some fees coming for realtors that we're really working really hard to stop. 2.7% on second homes. That is double, plus 0.2% more of what is going on right now. I think that is in a committee. That is in a committee right now that we're testifying. Peter Tucker. If anybody doesn't reach out and give Peter Tucker a thank you, you ought to. He's down there working his rear end off. He's in every room. He's in every discussion. He's with everybody that needs to be, and he's working it hard for you guys. A guy that's really probably the busiest guy in this building right now, protecting your interest down there. So, but with that being said, there's 2,100 of you in the state of Vermont. If you take your families and all that, you can probably quadruple to that. You can get close to 8,000 people. You need to be sending emails and letters and phone calls and everything to let people know that you're not going to stand for that. it's just is going with what's going on with the high interest rates and the higher prices and low inventory. It's just when you start hammering the people that want to come and invest in your state, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. There's another 3.65% tax on homes over $700,000. That one isn't dead yet neither. We're still working on that one. It is hung on the wall. But again, it is right now time for you folks to be sending out emails and letters and calls and all of that and letting them know where you stand with that. There's a small tax coming on short-term rentals. That one is going to happen. That's baked in there. They're using that to help buy down some of the education stuff. There's three statistics that I really want to make sure that you folks really understand. One is in the last 12 years, 16,000 students have left our public education system. 16,000 students have left our public education system. 16,000. That is not only did they leave, but their families left as well. 24,000 people between the ages of 45 and 65 have left our state in the last 12 years. Those are our worker bees. Those are the people that show up every day. You don't have to worry about whether they're there or not. They show up, they work, they're productive, and they've left the state. And on the other side of it, we have 48,000 people over the age of 65 that have come into our state. 48,000. We're glad to have any type of gain in population, but we're going the wrong way. We need to make sure that the younger people come here, that we grow businesses to support them, and the climate that we're in right now is not the climate that we're looking for. It's the complete opposite. We need to do more to make sure that those we turn those around, so the people that we're spending all this education on are going to college and then coming back and then investing in Vermont. Everybody likes the state of Vermont, but as of right now, it's unaffordable, and we need to do better. And I'm gonna end with this. We all know, and people have heard this before, but we all know these people. We all know these people I'm going to talk about. They're the people that built Vermont. There are loggers, there are farmers, there are storekeepers, there are people that work for the town, there were people that worked for the banks, the people that ran our state, built our state, did everything that they could do to make sure that Vermont was Vermont. And they were the people that worked in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. And they were told, hey, don't worry, just go to work every day. And we have Social Security and we have Medicare and Medicaid and all that, and you're going to be fine and you're going to be taken care of. And now those folks are living in a beat-down 1969 trailer, and with the clean heat standard coming on board, and all these extra costs and high fuel costs and high food energy costs and everything that could possibly be, they're living on $1,550 a month trying to figure it out, and yet we're making it harder and harder for them to live, and they have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to go other than to stay here and to try to figure out how they're going to make it happen. We've got to make Vermont affordable, or we're going to drive those people out as well. And again, they have no place to go. So, on such a good day, with starting off with Senator Starr, I'm sorry to. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I'm just being realistic, folks. We need to change the balance of power that we have in Montpelier, or we're just, we're just not going to have much left. So, but anyways, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Next up will be Representative Brian Smith. He's been serving since 2017 in the Orleans 1 District, which is the city of Derby. He's in the House Committee on Environment and Energy. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan and Todd. And thank you. I'm glad I'm here this morning. But anyway, before I start on some of the bills in our committee, I'd like to read to you, and it's not that long. It's our Energy and Environment Committee minutes of the past week. We walked through Legislative Council. I'll get right to the drift of this. We've been talking about dams. There's a lot of bad dams in Vermont that need to be replaced and repaired, and trying to figure out what they're going to do with private dams is an issue. We've been talking a lot about climate change. And S259 has been crafted by VPIRG, Climate Change Cost Recovery from Big Oil. This bill asks ANR yet another study that we're going to be paying for to implement strategy rules adopting ways to identify responsible parties. We can't control climate change or stop it, so let's cast all the blame on fossil fuel companies and take them to court and try to get money to pay for damages caused by climate change. There's no common sense in that. Fossil fuels built this whole country, and now the majority in the state of Vermont turning their back on them. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right that they're polluting either, but that's another story. Senator Bray walked through S258 in our committee. He spoke about wanting to go after these companies. There's one I really wanted to get to. Oh, yeah. S258, gentleman by the name of Rod Coronado testified in favor of the bill. In 1986, this witness that was asked to testify in our committee, along with another person, sunk 2 whaling ships and sabotaged Iceland's sole whale processing facility in Iceland. They destroyed laboratory equipment with cyanic acid, sledgehammers, and about $2 million worth of damages. This guy was called to testify in our committee. I was a little disappointed in our chair when that happened. He spent quite a few years in federal prison, and that was kind of the highlight of the week. We listened to a lot of testimony on S258. I'm done with that. I was going to get up and say, and I was going to start off by telling everybody how great everything has been going in Montpelier, and then I was just going to say thank you and sit down, because there's nothing great going on in Montpelier. And S258 is in my committee right now. That is a fish and wildlife bill. They're trying to add 2 members of non-hunters and non-sportsmen and non-fish and wildlife people to a committee that's going to oversee our Fish and Wildlife Board that already exists. They want to stop coyote hunting with dogs. I don't have a problem with it. Maybe some people in here do, and it's everybody's right to feel the way they want. We have the best advisors, we have the best biologists, and we have some of the best members in this group right now. So I can't understand why we need to try to fix something that ain't broke. So that being said, there's a lot of testimony from anti-hunting groups. And on Friday, we heard from 7 witnesses in our committee. 6 of them were in favor of S258 by clamping down on the Fish and Wildlife Department. 1 member spoke against the bill, and I spoke with the chair, and I don't know if we were still on the air or not, but I asked her what kind of that was supposed to be as far as a balanced group of witnesses. And she said that there's going to be more testimony next week. I'll believe that when I see it. But anyway, going on to House Bill 687, it's called Community Resilience and Biodiversity Protection Through Land Use. It's a 132-page bill. They talk about forest blocks. These are forest blocks that are going to be designated for the purpose of land control. I couldn't understand 1 sentence in this bill. I don't want to stand here and say I'm dumb, but I'm dumb to this bill, and I've been trying to follow it. I sent the bill to our administrator, our town administrator. Bob Kelly read through the bill and indicated to me that there's nothing good about it. It's going to hurt the smaller communities. There are 3 different tiers in it. And if anybody wants to look at it, it's, like I said, 687. Go online, and if you have questions, I probably can't answer them today, but if anybody's got questions, they can call me, and I'll get an answer for them. So let's go on to S213, river corridors. They want to remap, they're going to remap river corridors and floodplains. Right now, outside of the current river corridors, there are 12,000 homes with 40,000 additional properties. If they when they remap and expand these floodplains, there's probably 12,000 homes of a lot of people that have planned on these homes being their retirement money. It's going to probably cut the value of these homes, I don't know about in half or not, but it's going to do something. I see there's a number of realtors in the room. They could probably enlighten everybody on what that will do. I don't agree with the bill at all. It's a land grab by the state of Vermont, and I wish there was more members in my committee that would shoot this bill down, but they're not. And on the last part of this that I've been working on and getting nowhere with is House Bill 48. It's a request to the state of Vermont to relocate and start looking for an alternative dump site, and I spoke about this at the last meeting. Chair Sheldon, Amy Sheldon is the chair, and I've spoken with her a few, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week about getting this bill off our wall and getting it done, getting something done. And I've heard the promise of we're going to try to put this into another bill and try to make it work. I've heard that a lot, and I hope if she's telling me the truth, and I'm not going to say what I think, but anyway, I hope she does this. And House Bill 345 is a bill that requires, it's a criteria bill for a lake in crisis. 3 of the 4 criteria have been met with Lake Memphremagog, and 1 is not, because real estate prices have not gone down. And I've told committee over and over and over that real estate prices should have absolutely nothing to do with the quality of water. Water quality is water quality, nothing to do with what the price of a home is. If a lake's polluted and the real estate prices are right up high, that lake's still polluted and needs to be looked at. So if we can get that dropped, this could become a lake in crisis, and maybe we'd get more money from the feds. And right now it's getting dumped into Lake Champlain. And they could sell that lake to New York and Chittenden County, and I'd be real happy with that. But anyway, we've been trying to get things done, and that's pretty much what our committee's been doing. And I know Representative Page has got all the money answers, so I'm going to yield the floor to Representative Page. But thank you.
Thank you, Representative Smith. The next and final speaker will be Representative Woodman Page, member since 2019 for Orleans 2, which serves Newport. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I would just like to say I'm very saddened, and I'm happy for you, Bobby, because we're losing a very good representative for our kingdom. And I wish both you and your wife, a very happy retirement. And I hope the two of you are able to do something fun. It's been working with you and talking with you. You're very easy to get along with. And you're very well respected down in Montpelier. And you are an inspiration to all of us. And I know you have a D behind your name, but I never looked at you as a Democrat. I looked at you as a colleague and a friend and a good representative for the Northeast Kingdom. And you will be missed here. So thank you again. I don't have all the answers to appropriations, but I'll just, we did pass out the appropriations bill. It's the big bill, as they call it, H-883, and we sent it off to the Senate, and they are reviewing that. And as far as I know, I believe that Friday the Senate was supposed to have passed it out of the Senate or take a vote on it, and then it would go to the Committee of Conference. I don't know whether that has occurred or not, but I thought I would just read you some highlights of what the House passed out of here. We passed a total of $8.5 billion for our budget out of the House budget. And I think we all know that we're going to be having some ongoing challenges in the near future. We've had a lot of federal funding, which has been both a blessing as well as a curse, because we've been able to do a lot of things with these extra federal funds that we probably wouldn't normally be able to do. Those funds are coming to an end soon, and as a result of that, we're not going to be able to do the things that we've been doing the past year or two since COVID. So that is something that we need to keep in mind. This $8.5 billion, you will hear that there's only a 2% difference between what the governor suggested and what the legislature passed. And that is true, but we are also putting off payments and other costs into the future that are not really included in this $8.5 billion. Some of the highlights of this budget, I'll just briefly go over. Flood resilience, mitigation. We have spent, or spending over $16 million in flood hazard mitigation and resiliency to future floods. Housing, we're spending over $40 million for emergency housing, economic services related to that emergency housing, also manufactured homes, improvements, things of that nature. Agency of Human Services, over $77 million. Some of that money is going to health programs, household health insurance surveys, child welfare, emergency medical transportation, higher education. We have $10 million that are going to the Vermont State Colleges, $1 million that's going to our community college, and what else? $1 million to Secretary of State's office to support some of our elections that are coming up, security, that sort of thing. Agriculture, $450,000 for a grant to the Northeast Organic Farming Association. Over $1 million to Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation for helping out our loggers. $550,000 to the Salisbury Fish Hatchery to keep that open. And the list goes on. That's pretty much it for the appropriations highlights that I have. I did want to go over H887, which the others have talked about regarding education. I am a little disappointed in what our education committee has or has not done. At the beginning of the year, the governor came out and warned the public, the cost of our education, that property taxes would be going up at least 20%. They knew this. The Education Committee knew this, and to their credit, they have brought it down to, I believe, about 15%. But that's not enough for our Vermonters. If you've got a second home, if you've got a cabin on the lake or a hunting camp, you're going to see a great increase in your property taxes. And they have brought those taxes down from 20% to 15%, but how did they do it? They taxed. They've got a tax on software for the cloud, that if you use Intuit to do your taxes, you're going to see an increase in the tax for that software. In addition, there's another tax that they included, which was, where is it here? I'm sure I'm going to find it here shortly, but there's two taxes that they added. One was on the cloud, and I just can't remember and see what the other one is right now. Another issue. What? On what now?
The short-term rental.
Oh yes, short-term rentals. Yes, yeah. That's going to affect your rentals. The other issue that I'm seeing a lot of emails on is the Fish and Game bill, S-258, has to do with shooting of coyotes. It also has to do with increasing the numbers on the Board of Fish and Game and Wildlife. And I have had a conversation with Peggy Williams. I don't know whether she's here or not, but I told her that I would not be voting for that bill because of some of these issues with that. So I think that's about it. Look forward to your questions after.
And just before we start for questions, I do want to give a special thanks to NEK-TV. I forgot to thank them earlier, but they are an integral part of these legislative breakfasts. The videos are available on YouTube constantly, so if anyone of you wants to hear or see anything again, it's available there for you. So thank you again, you guys. Now the question session will begin. Please come up to ask the question. You can allow one or two sentences to lay the groundwork for the question, but also state your name and town or city that you're from. So I'll open the floor for questions at this point in time. Who wants to be the nice first questionnaire? Anyone? Okay. Okay. Thanks. And again, just a sentence or two to lay groundwork.
Thank you. NEK-TV has been doing this for over 40 years. Bobby, I remember when you pioneered it with us. At the time, I was the whatever you call it, honcho over at NEK-TV, and we were up in North Troy at the restaurant. Bill Davies, and it was, they didn't get the heat on either. So those were pioneering days. My name is Frank Davis. I'm from Derby. And that's not what I came to speak about. Bobby kind of blindsided me with that, but we've known each other a long time. Thank you, Bobby. But what I wanted to speak about, and especially to Senator Ingalls and the Senate, is going to have a hearing tomorrow on the nomination by the governor for the Secretary of Education. Actually, it's not a nomination anymore because Zoe Saunders is the candidate, and she has already started the job, but the Senate must approve it. And I'm going to have to differ with my senator, with Russ, about approving that. I have her resume here, if anybody would like to look at it. I'm afraid that there's a lot I could say in opposition, but there are two things that I want to make as a point in opposing her nomination. One is, if she were to apply as a teacher...
Excuse me, can you just ask the question, please? Thanks, Mr. Davis. Thank you.
It's a comment, not a question.
Well, this is a question period, so comments aren't reserved for the public here, so thank you for coming then.
Wow.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, and hello, Russ and Representative Smith. I wanted to follow up with the question on your position on increasing the tax, and I'll call it a targeted tax, on second homeowners. The second homeowners that come to the state, visitors from outside the state, as well as Vermonters who have camps or lake homes, that targeted tax is not going to benefit anyone. It'll have a negative impact on Vermont's overall economy. And so I'm asking for your opinion on that. It's both, there's a portion, there's two different bills. There's a Senate bill and the House bill that are coming together. Each has a section. I ask for your perspective and opinion on the elimination of that tax. Also, there was the mention of how the federal funds are going away. Well, increasing taxes somewhere else doesn't benefit any of us. There were points also made about making Vermont affordable. We do have the Act 250 reforms that are out there, which is a great thing, but I don't see the increasing in taxes or a targeted tax on second homeowners as the answer. So my question is your perspective, gentlemen, on that. Thank you. And Peter Fina from J Vermont.
And Peter's also with the Board of Realtors and who did this excellent breakfast for us again. So thank you very much, Mr. Fina. So I'll begin with Senator Ingalls. Thank you.
As a realtor, as one of you, I oppose that tax very much. It is a targeted tax, and we're already starting to feel the effects of it. Talking to the mayor, we have her house for sale down in Dorset. She's got some friends that have came to Dorset and then found out that the legislature is looking at taxing them further, and they're very concerned about that. And I'm sure that all of you have had, especially some of you that are up in that second home business, are getting questions about that. I can remember that I didn't feel like I had done my due diligence when I had sold a bunch of people during COVID, retired people, a lot of educators actually, and then they found out how much their retirement was taxed, and if we sold them a home and then we got to resell that home as they moved to New Hampshire and other states that didn't do that, and I think that's what you're gonna feel here. Yeah, these people they have money and they do like Vermont, but they have the ability to buy wherever they want to buy, and they're not going to just come here and spend money and just to be taxed more. I don't think that anybody really is opposed to paying their fair share of tax, but everybody knows when they are getting poked, and I think that tax is poking them. And I'm doing everything we can do to oppose that. We're talking to appropriations. I think appropriations has a pretty good handle on it. I don't know if it's going to see the light of day on it. They're still alive. It's still breathing. We're still there till May 10th. Anything can happen, but I severely I think that's severely going to impact on the second home market at a time when we don't need to be trying to drive down real estate prices or real estate sales or anything like that. It will make a difference, so I'm opposed to it.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Representative Brian Smith.
I think you'll find that every Republican in Montpelier is going to be opposed to this tax. It's a supermajority way of raising additional dollars so that they can create special groups to oversee everything else that we Vermonters try to do, and they want to take charge of our lives with this tax. And if you own a hunting camp, or if you own a small camp in the woods, or if you own a camp on a lake, that's going to get taxed. I'm pretty sure. Am I right, Representative Page? So it includes my hunting camp in Morgan and your camp. It's an unfair tax, but the majority of Montpelier is trying to figure out a way to raise more money so they can create more programs to look out for us and make laws to protect us from us. Thank you.
Representative Page.
Just a quick comment regarding the potential new Secretary of Education. I think the governor has a right to appoint who he wants. If you look at his record, he's appointed Representative Holcomb, Dan French, all great candidates, and I believe and I hope that this Zoe Saunders will also be a good candidate, and I think it's his ability and right to do so, and I hope that the legislature will eventually approve her. That said, regarding taxing second homes, I have a second home. It's a summer camp, although when I first moved up here, I stayed in it. And it was probably one of the best winters I've ever had is in Walden. And my taxes are going to go up around $600-700 more. I'm already paying maybe over $3,000 for my property taxes for that little camp. I don't have any services there. I don't use any of the services. But obviously I pay my taxes, and I'm against this particular tax that's going to be going through. I think it ultimately will hurt your real estate businesses, and people will go elsewhere. You know, Vermont's not the only beautiful place in the world and in this country where people can go and live for a lot cheaper than we're all paying for right now. So I hope some changes are made to our education programs. We're going to need to make some very difficult decisions here in the next few years about how we're spending our education money. So, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Page. We also have Representative Sims, who is here, who just would like to have address that question also. So, thank you.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate that question. I just wanted to clarify a little bit that the additional surcharge that's being contemplated is on short-term rentals only. So we're not talking about hunting camps or second homes. The short-term rentals that are on the platforms, and it's a surcharge that would be added through the additional meals and rooms collection at 1.5%. In committee, as we were discussing it, certainly spent a fair amount of time talking about how vital our short-term rentals are for our community. They attract folks here to come and visit and spend money. It's often an additional source of income for folks who are living here as well, and want to support that. And also, the testimony that we heard is that this modest 1.5% surcharge would not discourage folks from visiting somewhere else instead of Vermont. And that funding would be dedicated directly to the statewide ed fund right now as part of our effort to reduce property taxes for Vermonters as we face these challenges in our statewide ed fund. So if we didn't move forward with the 1.5% surcharge, which would generate $6.5 million and would help buy down property taxes, if that comes out of the bill, which it might in the Senate, we would see higher property taxes for Vermonters. So we're trying to balance our commitment to education, the very limited tools that we have for FY25 next year, and the only way that we can bring property taxes for Vermonters down is by adding new revenue. And certainly understand everyone's concern about who and where that revenue comes from. That's why we've tried to be thoughtful about adding a modest surcharge to the short-term rental, the folks who, use Airbnb and VRBO. So just wanted to provide a little bit more clarity and context about what's on the table right now moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Sims. Anyone else? Question? Okay. Thank you.
Laurie Grimm, resident of Newport. 33 years ago, almost 34, when I moved to Vermont, I paid the purchase and use tax on a vehicle that I brought with me, and 1% of that was supposed to go to education. Periodically over these last years, I've asked that question, where is that money, and can you prove that it's actually gone from motor vehicles to the Department of Education? And I've never been able to get an answer, and I'm wondering, with this 1.5 that's going to come in, is education going to actually get the money? Because I'd like to know who's following that money and where is it?
Thank you for that question. Senator Ingalls.
Oh, Lori, we follow that money very much. 37% of property taxes goes to education, and the rest of it is all with additional taxes. So yes, that money will go, and I differ with Representative Sims. We're $200 million more that we're going to do on education, and then they're raising another $20 million to buy down that tax. So they didn't buy down any tax. They didn't do anything. They raised $220 million instead of $200 million. They raised another $20 million to buy down it. So you just taxed more to buy it down. That's all you did. You didn't save any money. The answer isn't to tax more. It is to spend responsibly less and to get a better outcome. We are just spending. It's just getting to a point where people can't afford it. And the tax isn't just on short-term rentals. It is going to affect every second home that's out there. Every second home that's out there. It isn't something that's rosy and nice and all of that. It is a tax, unaffordable tax that is going to make it harder to come to Vermont and to live and to go. But Lori, from all the rooms and meals tax to any of these other special taxes, we are spending $2.4 billion on education right now in the state of Vermont. $2.4 billion. Our budget's $8.5 billion. We're spending $2.4 billion on education. So a quarter of all our budget that we're spending in the state of Vermont is going to education. If we were number one in the world, it'd be different, but we're not. I mean, we're number one and number two in spending, in the top five in spending, but we are in the middle of the pack, and we're falling like a rock as far as where our test scores are. So I would spend whatever we had to spend if we were number one. It wouldn't matter to me. I would be okay. Let's go. We got something for it. Let's do that. But we're not in that. We're in a bad position with education. We need to put kids first. We need to figure that way out, and to just keep on throwing monies over and over and over at a problem. It's sometimes when you got a shovel, you got to quit digging, and that's what we need to do.
Thank you, Senator Ingalls. Representative Smith.
I don't need to answer that question. Senator Ingalls pretty much covered that in its entirety.
Thank you. Representative Page.
As you can see, we don't have a problem raising revenue, and I think Representative Beck from St. Johnsbury said it well. We don't have a problem raising revenue. We have a spending problem. And since I've been down there, I have not seen us cut anything. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. The next question is coming up.
Donna Constantino, Newport City. I have a couple of ideas about the housing issues in Vermont, and one is about homelessness, and instead of the state renting out hotels, I was wondering if they would maybe ease some 250 permitting, or maybe give up some state land and build like some tiny house communities for people with like a community center in the middle. So I was just wondering, my question would be, would people be in support of that? And the second, would the state sort of mandate that communities take care of inclusionary zoning, where designated village centers can use a TIF, but we need to expand that into communities that don't have that designation, and that's where that tiny house community concept comes into, with like a center of like community center in the middle and people having tiny houses around it to create community. So I think we can solve housing issues that way, homeless issues that way, and create more opportunities for people to not be unhoused and to have affordable housing. So I'm just wondering if you legislators would be in support of writing some kind of legislation to say that all parts of Vermont have to have inclusionary zoning.
Thank you. Senator Ingalls.
There will be no meaningful housing built in the state of Vermont until we reform Act 250. That's just the way that it is. Every time they talk about reforming Act 250, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher. I can point you to a project that just got killed in Heinsberg. They followed the rules of what the intent was last year, is to build housing more in flood zones. They had a developer that went down. They devised a plan to build up out of the flood zone. They were going to put 73 houses, single-family houses, and probably another 50 single-family houses. And this was a small brook, not a raging river, not like the Winooski River or anything like that. This was not a place that flooded when during Irene or during the summer, but it's in the floodplain. And so we lost over 100 units of housing when the Act 250 said we can't do that. That's not allowed. We're not concerned about you folks. We're concerned about the people that follow you after all the money's gone. So this Act 250 is just a barrier. It's the barrier of anything reasonable that goes on. As of right now, they're still debating, I know there's folks here that have driveways that are 600 or 700, 800 feet long. You buy a piece of land, 10 acres, and you want to put your house where the view is. So you put a driveway in. That's going to require, when they're all said and done, an Act 250 permit. Act 250 was meant to make sure that Vermont didn't get commercially overdeveloped. That's the way that it was, and protect our mountaintops, and to protect, the integrity of Vermont. What the supermajority wants in Montpelier right now is not for housing. They wanted to cram you into designated downtown centers and to build and to build in those spots. They just basically want to put housing where housing doesn't want to go, where the investment doesn't want to go. Yes, we have some neat projects going on. They're trying to develop where Sacred Heart is up there. I mean, we've all, I know my counterparts over here have that listed. It was a hard sale. I think I walked 4 people through that property. Private development could not make that work, and then the state has something right now that they're trying to put something up there. That's what state should. That is the type of housing that's going to go. That should happen to a building like that. But where you can build something for $150,000, they're going to have $400,000 to $500,000 per unit. That is not affordable for the rest of Vermont to build housing. So we need serious Act 250 reform. Every time we talk about it, Keisha Rahm has worked her butt off in economic development, the chair of economic development, and brought time and time again great solutions to how we can really make a difference in Vermont as far as to put housing in. It goes to the Act 250 jurisdiction of Chris Bray's committee, and it dies a miserable death. And that's just the way it is. Until we have meaningful Act 250 reform, there will be no housing in Vermont. It's just the way it is, folks. I mean, it's just the way it is. And we're not being unrealistic as far as what we're trying to do. We're trying to solve a problem that Vermonters have. And you can see with this 30 by 30 effort, where they want to conserve 30% of the land by 2030, 40 by 40, same thing, 40% of the land by 2040, 50 by 50. So when you have those strong pushes to conserve that type of land, you're just not going to build housing until you get in there with a club and get some of that regulation fought down and get some meaningful housing built in the state.
Representative Smith.
Thank you. Senator Ingalls talked about 800-foot driveways and 2,000-foot driveways are part of this Act 250 plan. There's an exception in this rule. It says except for the state of Vermont and except for some municipalities. So it's kind of an odd way to approach things, but the state has built a 3 or 4 mile road in the hurricane. calling it an old road that they were refurbishing. It was a skid road, but the state has refined it and defined it as a passed road. So that's a whole other story. But anyway, housing. On December 2nd, we had legislative informational meetings before the General Assembly started up in January. Gus Seelig spoke. He's the housing commissioner. He spoke about housing, and I asked him, is there such a thing as affordable housing without state or federal assistance? And I listened to him for about 15 minutes, and he still hadn't answered my question. So I asked him again, and he said no. It's there's no such thing as affordable housing unless the state kicks in money, which is going to come out of our dollars, or the feds come out of it, which is a little tiny amount of our dollars. So it would be nice to be able to figure out how to create some affordable housing in the state of Vermont. But it doesn't look like it's going to be an easy thing to do without all the taxpayers paying for it. So that's my take. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And Representative Sims would like to just add a bit.
Yeah, thanks for that question about what we can do around exclusionary zoning and accessory dwelling units, and how do we get creative about solving our housing crisis here in Vermont. And we did some good work last session with S100, which looked at some by right changes to allow to prevent municipalities from excluding duplexes anywhere where a single-family unit is allowed. So sort of one example of the ways that we've tackled regulations in the past, but there is so much more to do. As we took up 687, the Act 250 bill in the House, I worked with the Rural Caucus, and we were actually successful getting 4 amendments onto that bill, some of them around making sure that it's more possible for small communities to access some of the exemptions, and some stuff around working lands businesses, accessory on-farm businesses, and wood products manufacturers. But relevant to the point that you brought up, one of the amendments that we were successful was around additional exemptions for housing. So saying that no Act 250 permit would be required for the conversion of a hotel or motel to housing, or a conversion of a commercial property up to 29 units of housing, and for accessory dwelling units. No Act 250 permit would be required, recognizing that, like, let's use our existing infrastructure to help create new housing, and you shouldn't have to go through an Act 250 permit to use that existing infrastructure. But there is still more work to be done on that bill. Senator Ingalls referenced Senator Keisha Himsdale and the Senate Economic Development Committee. They passed S311, which had a whole bunch of kind of additional ways that we can continue to address housing, look at exclusions, exclusionary zoning practices. And that bill has now been integrated into H687 on the Senate side. So I voted no on the Act 250 bill in the House. I didn't feel like it did enough to address housing and our climate crisis, but really excited about what's happening on the Senate side to take the House work and do more around housing and our zoning practices. So appreciate that question, and I think there's stuff we're doing this year to get at it.
Thank you. We have time for another question. Come on. There we go.
Bernard Peters from Martinsburg. This is going to be a different question. I'm going to use a very bad word. It's called crime. We got crime, and we got more crime. Every time you pick up the paper, some young person has died from drugs. They keep bringing drugs in here. Nobody's stopping them. They take them to court. They let them go on conditions. Well, if you're a criminal and you keep getting released on conditions, you're going to keep doing it because you've had no penalty. You have no consequences. It's about time we get some consequences here now. Now, if you run over somebody and kill them, they're dead. If you stab them, they're dead. You feed them drugs, they're dead. It's still murder. And somebody's going to say, well, we don't have enough jails. Okay, there's a cure to that. The United States of America is in with the United Nations.
Mr. Peters, can we get to your question, please?
What are we going to start doing with these criminals? We're not being serious enough. Supposed to be if you're a habitual offender, you go to jail for a very long time. If you're killing people, it used to be, guess what? You were executed. Maybe, just maybe, if some of these drug dealers knew they were going to be executed, the drug dealing would go down. What do you think?
Thank you for your question. Senator Ingalls.
Well, they're going to pass safe injection sites in Burlington and the rest of the state. Will that help, Mr. Peters? That isn't what we need. There has been some tougher bail reforms that are going away from the no bail. They had started the year where they wanted to get away with no bail at all. So they've started with that. We have made a change here in Newport as far as to have Judge Dryron step down as far as and put him in family court and get Judge Tebow, who is more aligned with how our communities are feeling. But we still have plenty of folks, it'd be very, very tough to be a law enforcement officer in the state of Vermont right now. It really, really would. So again, until we do something with this drug epidemic that is fueling almost everything, this drug epidemic that we have in the state of Vermont, it affects every walk of life. It's almost going to make Chittenden County Transit cease from operating because they have so many people, so many of these addicts that are on the buses causing problems and just causing disturbances that nobody wants to ride the bus anymore. And so, but you just keep on going right, just straight through. I mean, the hotel program, almost every one of those folks in the hotel program were addicted folks. I mean, it's just the way that it is. And those are what nobody wants to talk about, but that's what it was. I mean, on and on and on and on it goes. If I think the key to answer that question in the short term, if you want to see a difference in crime in the state of Vermont, it is that we need to tackle this drug epidemic that we have. We need to get people off of drugs, get them back into being members of society, productive members of society. And until we do that, until we have those honest discussions, we are going to keep on seeing the problems that we have over and over and over again. The state's attorneys called me a couple of weeks ago. 10, not old cases, 10 murder cases in Orleans County. 10 murder cases in Orleans County. Every one of them is because of being involved in some way of drugs. Either it's a drug trade, or they were addicted to drugs, or they're people that on some form of drug that should have been some kind of treatment that didn't happen. And until we solve that problem, until we have those real honest conversations about not feeling sorry for these folks that made the choice to be addicted, but to help them, show them the way that addiction isn't the answer, then we're going to have the problems. Last bit, something that a lot of people don't know about me. I have driven a lot of people to drug rehabs. I just have. It's what I've done quietly in my life. And not any of them really wanted to go. Not any of them. But when I picked them up, they couldn't thank me enough. Nobody wants to be a drug addict. I mean, that's just the way it is. But when they're a drug addict, that's all they want to do. But when they're clean and they're back, they're thankful and they feel like they have a new lease on life, and that's what we need to get to. Thank you.
Representative Smith.
Thank you. We sure do have a drug problem in Vermont. I have talked with a number of legislators, and there may be some legislation somewhere right now. The thought of having anyone that gets arrested with 1,000 hits of fentanyl should automatically go to jail for 10 years. No ifs, ands, or buts, and it's not this 1, 2, 3 and you're out. It should be 1 and you're out. We have traffic coming right up from Springfield, Hartford, Holyoke areas, very obviously bringing fentanyl into the area. I think our police departments all know of these drug houses, where they are, and what they need to do. However, they don't have the backing of the judicial system to do it. We have a fine state's attorney here that would prosecute a lot harder if she had the ability to, but I think Montpelier may have tied her hands, or the court systems have tied her hands to a degree. It's just a shame to see shootings. All shootings have been drug-related, or 99% of them, and you got to get to the crux of the matter and put these people in prison and leave them there and let them rot, as far as I'm concerned. But thank you.
Representative Page.
You know, Vermont is not the only state that's facing this crisis. It's really a national security issue with the drugs that are coming in through the cartels from Mexico. China's involved. It's probably an issue that needs to be addressed nationally. And as I said, it's a national security crisis that our country needs to face. Vermont, I think, is doing its best, trying to anyways, with these drug addiction centers. I hope it's not just, I hope that they also focus on prevention as opposed to, just giving out needles and things of that nature. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. This concludes. We've run out of time. Wait, Representative.
Can I speak one more time?
Yeah, got 1 minute. Okay.
When this started this morning, I failed to thank Bobby Starr, and I feel a little bit bad about it. Bobby served with my dad in Montpelier for I don't know how many years. Bobby, you've done a great job for the community, and I'm sorry I didn't stand up and say that sooner. Thank you very much for everything you've done for the Northeast Kingdom.
That was worth the minute there, so thank you. So this concludes the breakfast. I'd like to again thank NEK-TV, the East Side for this excellent food, the Orleans County Board of Realtors for coming and also sponsoring this. It was very excellent. And I'd like to thank you all for coming also and for attending. Our next one is going to be on Monday, May 13th, and it's going to be all the legislators will be in attendance for that one, are scheduled. So thank you all, and have a great day. Thanks.